I don't know, learned this in door-to-door sales was like probably the best same day type close process I could ever have. And I think a lot of people that didn't maybe come from that background don't understand like the psychology, or maybe forget how important it is to like people while the fire is hot is like when you got to answer their questions, uncover their objections, and like get to the actual contract. The moment you let people have time in between sending an offer, giving them a contract, you've already built up all this like motivation, why they need to sell, the pain. And then you send a contract and you wait, they're just going to go look at that. They're going to want to talk to everyone else. They're going to talk to their family, their cousin that's a realtor. They're going to want to talk to like all these different people. And they're really going to start questioning and second guessing everything. So like a part of the sales process that is super big about how you're going to get a contract at the end is what you do beforehand. So I went over this briefly, but kind of building rapport, setting the framework. So like at the beginning, showing that you're credible, building the urgency, and pulling back and saying, hey, like if we can, do something that makes sense, we're going to get the ball rolling. But if not, no big deal. We'll point you in another direction. So you got to get their guard down from the beginning, but understand like, hey, we help a ton of people in this situation. We buy a lot of houses. We help a lot of people that maybe can just, get out of it without having to sell, depending on their income, the back payments, all that. So I'm setting the framework there, and then I'm discovering what their issue is, presenting the options. But this is really big. Like understanding like how to present the offer is really big too. So if it's foreclosures, I want to make sure they've gotten to the point of hearing why they can't keep their house. If they're just trying to keep their house, I need to get them to the point of understanding that they need to sell before I even present an offer. And sometimes that won't even be on the first call. If these people are so stubborn, they don't understand like that they probably are going to need to sell their house, and they're not asking any questions about like, whoa, what would an offer look like? Maybe that is a better situation. Then I probably shouldn't even be presenting the offer yet. I just need to get them to the point of realizing like, hey, like we've walked through all these things. It sounds like based on what you told me, it's not going to be super feasible to, qualify for anything, keep it. Have you ever looked at a backup plan? I want them to tell me that they need to sell it. If not, I'd be like, look, I would recommend this, what I recommend my family and friends. And it sounds like if you're able to get some money out of it, get help relocating, get some extra time, it might put you in a better spot. Would you agree? And then getting them to agree they need to sell. But regardless, if I'm getting to the point of making them an offer, I want to handle the objections beforehand. So I want to know, like, do they have anywhere else to go where they're going to be thinking about that? Like, what is the condition of the house? Helping them understand what an actual cash offer company, like what your underwriters do. And this is where it's important to act as a representative of the company that has an underwriter, because if you're the one giving them a cash offer, you're going to give yourself no leverage to negotiate. They're gonna be like, well, you can pay me, 20 grand more than that. Like, you're not going to lose money on this house. They'll start convincing you versus you being on their side and trying to be like, hey, our underwriter makes these offers and they're going to make sure we don't lose money. So I'm going to walk you through how that works. They're going to factor in repairs, holding costs, closing costs, taxes, insurance, all these things that come into our costs after we buy it, aside from just the price we pay you, right? So I'm walking them through why a cash number is going to be 60 or 70% of what the fixed up value is. And I'm not trying to make it overcomplicated. I'm just trying to help them understand and anchor it lower in their head of their understanding of why a cash number is going to come at the biggest discount. It's going to be quick, et cetera, et cetera. So that handles some objections beforehand. It gets their, expectation lower, but I always want to get their number first. So I would say, hey, if we were to do this and we could get it, closed before the foreclosure, or, you don't have to pay any closing costs. You don't have to do anything to the house. Like what are you hoping that you can get in your pocket to get relocated, or what do you need? Like, is it just money to get moved? Is it just time? Like, figure out what their actual need is. I want them to give me an expectation first. And then this is big. So like, instead of you just making the offer, right, you've done all this, I get a verbal commitment from them and say, hey, look, we buy a lot of houses in this area, again, building credibility, but it's super urgent that we're going to have to do this before the foreclosure, which means we're going to have to pull a lot of strings. We got to get payoff statements, reinstatements. We got to order all these things from the title company. So like, helping them understand the urgency and being like, our underwriters only submit or make offers whenever they know that the homeowner is ready to, move forward. So I can go back there, see what they can get approved for. And if it gets approved, they just want to make sure this is something that you're ready to get started on. And then I'll try and get that confirmation before them, even though I haven't even given them a number. They'll be like, well, it depends on the number. Like, cool. So, if the numbers make sense, we can get this going. At the end of the day, like, whoever is going to buy the house is going to have to get this process started ASAP. So I just want to make sure before we try and get an offer approved that it's something that you're ready to be serious about stopping this foreclosure. You understand that this needs to like get started today, basically. And you can do that in a pleasantly persistent way, but I'm basically trying to get them to give me a yes beforehand. And we're trying again to be on the side of we're determining if they're going to get approved for an offer, not them determining if they're going to work with us. It's like, hey, we buy a ton of houses and we're going to determine if you're a right fit for us. So then whenever I'll literally put them on hold right here. Like, sweet, I have all this information. I have my underwriters in here. Let me see if we can get it approved and give me like a minute or so. I'll just put you on hold. And they'll be like, okay. And then whenever I come back, now I have all the like power to be like, hey, sweet. It actually got approved from our underwriters. It came in higher than I was expecting. And I'm going to give them a non-round number. There's a psychology to that too, but it's like, instead of saying 85,000, like they got it approved at $86,150. And then I'll just sit there in silence and let that sit with them. And that's going to be uncomfortable too, because you're going to want to say a bunch of reasons, all this stuff. You need to let them understand in their head. They're going to be like factoring in what their mortgage is, what their payoff, what is that going to net them? They're going to start asking questions. Let them talk first. But the moment that happens, you're probably going to, like, you should expect to handle some objections. They're either going to want more money. They're going to say, well, how does that work? How much time? And that's when you have to start, kind of isolating those objections. But at this point, I'll try and negotiate to either a higher offer if I can, or to a different exit strategy if they decline, whether that's subject to or maybe a novation. But this is where like I start assuming the sale and I just don't make it a big deal. I'll be like, sweet. So I mean, in order to get this done, like I said, the most important thing, I go right into the timeline. Like if we're going to be able to do this before the foreclosure or close on your timeline, like we have to get it sent to title so that they can even order these things so that we can close, right? So for you, what's a good email? And then I'll just start assuming the sale. I'll say, okay, it was just you and your wife on title? Are you guys, hopefully you figured this out before, but like, are you guys together? Cool. What was a good email, phone number? Sweet. And then who was the mortgage company? I'm like, at this point, I have the offer, right? Like getting built out, that I can send directly to them, but I'm just trying to make small talk and have them give me personal information. Like, okay, who was the lender with again? Oh, Freedom Mortgage. Okay. And you said the back payments were X amount. Cool. Do you actually happen to have the loan number on you? And they're like a recent statement, and they'll be like, oh, I might have it here. And they're trying to grab those things as I'm sending this offer over. But I'll be like, sweet, I just put this in your email and I'm going to walk you through this right here. So we can just make sure I point out the parts that are important, and then we'll make sure we can get it sent to title and get this rolling for you. And I'll start assuming the sale. And sometimes that just gets all the way to the finish line. Other times it's going to pull up objections. You're like, well, I want to talk to my wife, or I want to kind of understand this. I'm like, yeah, sweet. I completely understand. Like, I want to make sure you guys are on the same page. And you just have to isolate the objections and really sit in that position where you've sent the contract over to them. You need to sit there and handle that with them and make it not a big deal to you. You just be like, hey, my job's super important. I talk to 500 people a week in the same spot. We don't have time to chase you back and forth. So let's just handle it right now. I'll answer your questions. And that way you can make sure we get this done on time for you. You're basically doing them a disservice if you just let them hop off the phone, put their head in the sand, and not do anything. So let's open this up right now. I'll point you to the parts that are important. And, if you have any questions, awesome. I'll answer it right here. And so it's kind of like getting comfortable in the uncomfortable situations. But when we send that over, I'm just assuming the sale and using the timeline and the urgency to walk them through it. And then a lot of times you're going to have to be handling objections here at the end. And you're just sitting in there. Sometimes that close could be like 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes they're a contract reader. Sometimes they're not. A lot of times if they're not a contract reader, which is most people, I'm pointing them out to the important stuff in the contract. I'm showing them, hey, right at the top, you'll see it says your property address, your name, it says our LLC. And then right here, it'll say we're buying as is, just means you don't have to, do anything to the house. This shows the approved offer for $86,500. Cool. And then the rest of this is mainly for the title company. They're going to need this to make sure we're getting it insured, that we transfer the title over properly, that there's nothing else in this agreement that I didn't tell you, like mow your lawn or do your dishes. And I'll make them laugh right there. That's where I get people to really ease up and not worry about filling out or signing documents, right? They want to see, what are you buying it for? You're buying it as is. You can close on the close date that you have there. And at that point, I always make that joke, because if I can get them to laugh and understand, like, you know, this isn't a huge, like, you don't have to, I guess, stress out, right? They're comfortable with you. They're going to be comfortable. If you're comfortable, I mean, they're going to be comfortable closing too. And that's basically how we walk through it. I'm like, sweet, just need a little initial at the bottom of each page. We're going to get it sent to our title company, and then just make sure that you save my contact and basically communicate with us so that we can actually get this done on time. But that's kind of like our flow, essentially, of getting them to the offer to signing it while on the phone with them.
Got it. Okay.
Was any of that helpful, or things that you feel like you're not doing?
No, that was very helpful. I wasn't doing that, actually. That's why I'm like, I need to do this. I've already told myself I need to change my flow to this, but that was very helpful. Is it possible if we get that document? Or?
Yeah, I can shoot it in the school group once we hang up. I'll put it in the community and drop that in there. But yeah, it's and for we actually have all the AI kind of built out based on that. That's why I built that in our CRM for anyone that is, if you're wanting to have more like of the full setup that we have. All the calls are transcribed, and so it's actually grading the lead based on what we think a quality lead is for pre-foreclosure, and then it's also grading our sales process based on everything I just showed you. So did I set the framework? Like, I can literally go back to our team and see. I'll show you right here. I was just updating some things for it, but we'll see our KPIs, how many calls we made, but this is like the last 7 days. And so on any call that was over 10 minutes and the quality of the lead was greater than basically 50%, I can see what our sales score was. So you can see, and some of them are follow-up calls, so I don't really look at that, but like initial phone calls, you can see, let's see, Peter talking to this lead, how he set the framework, how he went through discovery. That might not have been a full phone call because it didn't have all the metrics, but it'll show you what, we did or didn't do well. Like, this was a land lead, so it's kind of interesting, but I didn't try and close her because I didn't even know what the comps were. But you can see, like, it noticed that, like, my close was, I failed to press for commitment or a clear next step. And so it's walking you through this, and you can see the full grade and summary right here. So she has 7.7 acres in Austin, and here's what she's looking to do. Here's the loan details. All of it's saved in there. So it's pretty cool. But that's the process that we're grading on, is that tool I just went through. So I can drop that in the school group.